Ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, I don't even have the music playing there. That's ridiculous. Ah, this is going to be the day where everything goes wrong for the tournament. I can tell you that for a fact.
That's alright, man. It's we'll keep rolling no matter what.
Everyone will totally understand. I will fix things as I go. I am putting fingers in holes to plug dams here. That's how it's going to be. Accolon Wastes coming in right now. Xenocide of an RSVP. Oh, alright. Hopefully your internet holds up as well. We actually lost you there again.
Yeah, I mean, it hiccuped for a little bit, but I gave it a good scream, and everything worked again.
Always
screaming seems to get a lot of things done around here.
I tend to agree, actually. Xenocide now, according to the scoreboard, has sponsors. This is not actually true. We will fix it after the match. For some reason, it decided to retain that, which is very, very odd indeed. Anyway, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Accolon Wastes, finally. Once again, our apologies for the screw-ups today. This has been dreadful. And we have here Based Xenocider, as he likes to call himself. Alternatively, you could introduce him as...
Xeno Cider!
That delicious bottle of Xeno Cider there from Clutch. I would drink a Xeno Cider, Throwdown, would you?
As long as, well, it can't have alcohol in it, can it? He's only 15.
That's a problem, yeah. We'd have to take him to a country where that's okay. Versus his opponent, in the Blue Trunks playing Protoss for the southeast of Accolon Wastes, it is...
RSVP!
RSVP.
RSVP.
He did, in fact, RSVP to this tournament. One of the last to accept his invite.
That's good. I would imagine every player that qualifies will want to be in. Now, RSVP used to be known by a nick, or I actually don't know how to say it, but I remember he used to go by that name. It's very complicated if you actually read it. I don't know how to pronounce it at all. Yep. But RSVP is a really cool guy. He likes to adapt himself more to like a Creator Prime PvT style, where he likes to go Robo Colossus base with a lot of upgrades, double forward. So it's very similar to State's Game 2 and I hope Game 3. I'm sure that's how it played out, right?
Yeah. State was able to win with a potent mix of 3/3 upgraded Colossus and Templar, which is always pretty good, as far as I'm concerned. It seems to work pretty well. QXC was caught in an awkward spot. Now, we're already seeing a bit of a difference here, based on Xenocider's play, because he actually went for the barracks first, whereas QXC for all 3 games went CC first. Accolon Wastes is not the best map to do that on, so I guess it does make sense. But he hasn't taken an earlier gas, and it's actually strange to see Terran going gasless right now, when they seem to have so many more aggressive options out of the gate.
Yeah, and I feel like gas just really keeps Protoss accountable. And you don't see Protoss's probe scout too often nowadays because they feel like they can't get it in. And, usually there's a supply depot as well as a barracks and you can finish the wall off. But in this scenario, it really benefits RCP to know his opponents go gasless. Some Protoss players can just stop mining gas and just drop the Nexus and feel completely confident to hold off any pressure.
Yeah, should be absolutely fine for him there. Second gas still hasn't been taken here by RSVP. This is very unusual for Protoss, in my opinion. Like, going to 23 supply without taking a second gas? Why would you do that?
Well, I mean, again, I think he doesn't need to, but going 1 gas is also a pretty standard way to say, I'm just going to expand really calmly, and if you're not careful, I can drop 2 more gates and 3-gate pressure you. Although, again, 3-gate to 4-gate pressure isn't very common unless you're really trying to metagame your opponent. I don't know, again, how much practice these two guys have played too much. There's not that much documented history. In fact, Xenocider, all of his recent matches dating to 2012 has been all against Terrans and Zerg, so there's not too much information to base off of what Xenocider tends to do in TVP.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Now the gas comes down. Again, really, really, really late there. And Warp Gate hasn't been started yet either by RSVP.
Yeah, this is kind of cool. You can delay Warp Gate as a Protoss player if you want to go for really quick tech like Robo Bay or Robotics Facility. And it's not very common, but you can do that. Just because Warp Gate's not as important if you have a Mothership Core.
No, that's very, very true. And, why would you need the earlier Warp Gate out if you know that you're not planning on attacking within a couple of minutes? And yeah, as you said, you could get that tech. And I wonder what tech RSVP is actually going to elect to do here. We're not seeing any forges down as of yet. In the meantime, Xenocide has gone for barracks heavy approach. He is on 2 gas in fact right now, starting to saturate his natural. And we're going to see a Twilight Council added on here by RSVP. Now, also, that Twilight Council is proxied. That's the funky thing about it. It's actually up to the northeast corner there.
Yeah, and DT expands. I put that in quotation marks because I really feel like it's such a flimsy way to expand. But it is also becoming a little bit more popular, at least on ladder. Whenever I play Terran, I seem to always run into something like that. And just because of how cheap it is, it's just ridiculous. You can go for this one gas opening and make it seem like you're gonna just play straight up with a lot of gateways. But instead, because of how much cheaper the Dark Shrine is, you can go for kind of a delayed gas, save your gas off your warp gate, and go for this tech. This is a really nice mix-up of sorts. And keep in mind that he is going for a robotics facility behind this. This is kind of a mix-up of MVP Tails 2-gate DT drop with the Warp Prism, if he chooses to do that.
Yeah, and he might. If he's going to build a Robo right now, it would be absolutely fantastic to see that come out. In the meantime, Xenocider hasn't really been able to do anything. He has delayed his factory significantly, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, he went for 3 barracks right afterwards as a follow-up as well. Now, he does have the engineering bay for the potential turret. Getting that engineering bay just seems really common for Terrans to go earlier on, but how much can he really detect? Just because we haven't seen Xenocider exercise any scans. We've been talking earlier, Totalbiscuit, in State versus RSVP, or versus QXC, that I like that QXC is not greedy with his scans. Xenocider still has yet to really discover what's up in Protoss's base.
That's very, very true indeed. It's interesting to see that he just is pretty much completely blind in that respect. And if he saw only that gateway and only that roadway, he'd be thinking, all right, what else is going on? There's no way at this stage you have that. Oh, now that was unfortunate. He actually did try and warp in DTs at the front there, but Xenocider killed him. I don't believe Xenocider knew what that was, though. Although, actually, he starts a missile turret right now, so I think he smells it. He definitely smells it. The Warp Prism, of course, will bypass this. If he gets... oh, second one is coming down as well here. Yeah, in the mineral line. Nice. Yeah, Xenocider definitely knows what's going on now.
Yeah, if you can kind of make out the form of it, also the fact that you can't attack the units directly, just because the DTs are warping in, then you can kind of immediately read. But that's a great... intelligent decision from Xenocider regardless, just to make sure you can't be too careless against a player like RSVP. Now, this is coming in really late. Oh, you see the Marines are going to stim and immediately take out the Warp Prism. That's also really huge. DTs are trapped now.
Yeah, these guys are not doing anything. Xenocider just shut this down as hard as you possibly could. He turned around, smacked it, and said, not in my house. And there comes the scan. There was, of course, no missile turret there, but losing a Warp Prism and 2 Dark Templar in change for a scan and a single SCP is under no circumstances very good at all. This Gambit, in my opinion, completely and totally shut down by Xenocider, and Xenocider, known as kind of an aggressive player, has just been playing nicely defensive up to this point. He is wandering out with... there, he just starts his combat shield, so this is a little bit of an odd poke, I guess, because he doesn't have combat shield, and this Colossus is most likely going to come out. But he could drop here. He could try and just apply... there we go. Just try and apply a little bit of pressure with Medivacs.
Yep. Just like in Protoss versus Zerg, if Protoss opens DT, Zerg can just kind of push with roaches. It's the same concept. Just Protoss invested so much into it. There's no way he can have a full-out force defend 2 areas at once. But in this scenario, Xenocider is just going for a double drop into the main and trying to do critical damage to the infrastructure. RSVP is following up with Colossus and Charge. A very common way to just patch it up, because you have both techs. Why not explore it? But Xenocider is still doing a good job controlling it inside, and if RSVP isn't careful, he could just straight up lose from this point.
He very, very well could. That was a nice little... oh, that Medivac is the luckiest Medivac in the history of mankind. It has 1 hit point to its name. It is barely still flying. It's basically like the plane that I took the red-eye from LA back on last night. My God, that was not fun. 5 hours of rattling, yeah, you're pretty much like, well, I had a good life. Time. This is how it's going to be. But Xenocider right now is in a decent position. He wasn't really able to get as much damage as I think he wanted there, though. I mean, you know, he takes out a couple of units and maybe a pylon. That's not ideal. And, oh, he's going to doom drop this. He shuts down the Observer, and now RSVP is going to think to himself, where's that drop coming from? Is there a drop even coming? Where is it? Who knows? RSVP smells it. He's moving into position, but 4 Stalkers is not enough to stop this.
No, it is not, and we see that the Stalkers immediately are getting picked off, and Xenocider trying to beat his opponent to the chase. The one Colossus does provide a pretty scary support for the Protoss army, and this is kind of what I was saying. I was really kind of confused that Xenocider hasn't been trying to drop in multiple places at the same time and really spread Protoss thin. It seems that Xenocider has been confronting RSVP's forces straight up, while RSVP in reality shouldn't be able to split his army into 2 factions if Xenocider decided to poke both at the natural and the main base.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. It's very difficult, though, because, of course, RSVP does have good observer coverage, and it's swinging nicely between the natural, and it's actually going to try and take a third as well. That could be a little bit risky, spreading your force out even more than that. The drop's going to see that. It's currently playing Runaway from the Colossus right now. And here is that double drop that you were talking about. Now the third's been taken, this is a great opportunity to do that. However, the feedback comes in, shuts down one medevac, but the rest of the units are now finally making their way in there. And Xenocide has been looking for a chance to do damage, and now he gets it.
Yeah, this is huge, because during this entire time, RSVP has been probing really greedily. RSVP wisely warping in a DT to try to pick off some of the units. Xenocider not paying attention to the drop to the third either.
Yep, that's very true. It seems like Xenocider was really focused on that drop in the main. I don't blame him. That was actually pretty big. 13 workers killed. That was significant disruption to the economy of his opponent, and he takes a third behind it. So his third orbital command is already down where it should be. Things are going really well for him. Xenocider still doesn't really have the... He is actually playing delaying right now. He doesn't really have the tech to deal with a large number of Colossus. But the amount of economic damage he's done has slowed down that Colossus production. There's only one, and there's actually Templar down instead, but there's only 3 of them. So it's not a terrible position for Xenocider to be in, but it seems a bit knife-edge to me.
Yeah, it's still kind of very precarious for both sides. RSVP is going for a 1 Colossus fake into Templar, and actually the dividends have already been paid off. He's getting 2-2. Storm is finished, and Terran is nowhere near finishing 2-2, at least for the next minute and a half.
Yeah.
RSVP also has another War Prism coming in, so he can even counter-harass. And we've been seeing a lot of Protosses in Pro League, Rain, SOS, Parting. They love these counterattacks while Terran is pushing, really forces them to multitask. And Xenocider can't lose everything here. If he does, it's game over, because it's too big of an advantage for RSVP.
Indeed. Interesting choice by RSVP to emphasize the armor upgrades as well. And that's going to be good against a Marine Heavy Force. There's no real question about that. Storm goes down, doesn't really do a huge amount, but it holds his opponent off for a while. We're seeing no sign of more Colossus. And the Storm Tech is pretty obvious now. Second one goes down, and he's not going to pick that off. Great block there with RSVP Zealots to actually save that High Templar. That could come into play later on right now. Vikings a little bit out of position. Xenocide looking a bit nervous here. RSVP looking pretty cool, calm, and collected at this stage. But we are still in a situation where the Terran did have the economic advantage for quite some time, and if his economy really powerhouses it out, then that's going to be pretty ugly here for RSVP.
Yeah, at the same time, though, I feel like RSVP is just sitting in a really nice spot. Like, Protoss wants to kind of be at 3 base with being able to have good upgrades. The only thing is he just has to shut down any possibility of drops, because Xenocider not only has 1 drop in the main, but a continuation triple drop here, TV.
Yeah, this is crazy. You generally don't expect that kind of follow-up to come in, and a scan would very easily clean up these Dark Templar as well, and then a push onto the third base. Hyper-aggressive play here by Xenocider, which catches this immobile army of RSVP completely out of position, does a significant amount of damage. Cleanup happens, and Xenocider's triple drop is devastating his opponent. There is that Warp Prism drop, but it's not being controlled. RSVP just lost the Warp Prism. This is disastrous for the Protoss.
Yeah, absolutely crumbling under a double-pronged pressure. And Xenocider, he's been able to really avoid the High Templars as well. He's constantly scanning to see if it's safe. The Storms are on the units, but does it really even matter? The Marauders are just eating them. It doesn't even have any consequence whatsoever.
It's 45 splat 180. Xenocider just rolled RSVP really hard there. And it was interesting that we were talking earlier saying, he seems a little bit nervous and, maybe he's not controlling things correctly, but he suddenly kicks into high gear, does those ridiculous drops. I love the follow-up drop as well, because you'd never expect that, especially something that's triple the strength to follow up after that. So, okay, I'll warp into a few DTs, I'll handle the drop, everything will be just fine. I've got this under control. And then the surprise drop comes in again as your force is swinging around to defend the third base. And the difference in losses was ridiculous. RSVP lost 12,000 resources worth of units, 4,700 lost by Xenocider. Incredibly efficient and ridiculously aggressive play.
And I kind of wanted to applaud Xenocider for being able to find or thread the needle, per se, just because RSVP was doing such a good job defending initially. But after a while, you can see that he had really trouble playing fast. He was saying that in the pregame interview. I don't really have that much high APM, but I want to play good strategy. And his strategy was on point, because we've seen players pull this off in GSTL. And I want to kind of commend Xenocider for being able to exploit his opponent's weaknesses because of that.
Yes, I think that was really, really nicely played. It took a little bit of time for Xenocider to really get into the swing of things, I feel. But once he did, It was really awesome to watch, and those drops just tore the Protoss to pieces. The counter drop play was not well controlled, and as a result, the Warp Prism was shut down very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it was pretty damn cool. All right, folks, we're going to be going to Game 2 very shortly between Xenocide and RSVP. Let's see if RSVP can come back. The failed Dark Templar drop was perhaps what really stuck it in there for him. If he'd actually done more damage with that, that could have been a completely different game. Let's see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. We'll find out after this break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Game 2 is coming in right here. It's going to be on Whirlwind, and Xenocide currently leads one game in this best of 3.
That's right. Game number 1, we saw RSVP go for a proxy, or a hidden DT with a Warp Prism drop. And normally if you do that kind of build, especially if you go 2 gates and you want to get the fastest Dark Templar possible, normally you go for around 745, 744. But that drop came in at now 9 minutes, so that's how long an opportunity Xenocide had to respond to it. So if RSVP wants to be able to execute a strategy, he has to do it a little bit cleaner, in my opinion, for this game.
Yeah, it didn't really work out all that well at all. Xenocide had definitely figured it out eventually, and it seems like that drop definitely could be earlier, but it didn't happen there, and as a result, it just didn't do anything. As I said, it was completely impotent. There was no effect, really, and it all... okay. So Xenocide types GG immediately. Like, all right, okay, let's...
All right, on to game number 3.
Yeah, game number 3. That was pretty quick. Yeah, definitely. It's a good, 50-second game on Whirlwind. Pretty common map for those short games. Anyway, it is this guy in the red trunks playing Terran to the southwest. That is the man to beat right now. He is...
Xenocide.
He is delicious but non-alcoholic versus his opponent. Up to the northeast position, the blue trunks playing Protoss. He is...
RSVP.
RSVP.
RSVP. I wonder what strategy he's going to whip out this time around. It seems like he's capable of doing anything. Nexus first, though, would be really nice, but he is going to drop the gateway instead. I really feel Protoss players shouldn't be afraid of Nexus first on this map.
On Whirlwind, yeah. I think that's pretty safe to do. And Xenocider is most likely going command center first here. We would have expected to see the barracks come down right now, so since there's no SCV on the map, it's definitely not proxy play, so it will be command center first. Will it be on the low ground? It definitely could be. Yep, he's going to put it right down there. He has no fear whatsoever.
Yep. Nice. Young and bold. That's how they always die. Or live and become legends. That's
we will see. We will see how that turns out for him. I mean, you know, if he keeps playing like he did later on in the game rather than earlier in the game, then I think Xenocide has got a ridiculously good chance of going through this 2-0. RSVP didn't seem like he really had the means to deal with the drop play, especially not when it was tricky drop play. You know, that was intelligent dropping. That wasn't just dropping stuff randomly all over the place and hoping it worked. It was like, I'm gonna hit him once here, then I'm gonna hit him once there, I'm gonna hit him 3 times here because I know I could pull his force out of position. I'll have information because he's at his 3rd base, and that was really smart.
Yeah, it was more tactical striking. As I don't know MMA that well, but I hope that's a terminology MMA enthusiasts will understand. Being
Tactical
able to hit
striking.
high, hit low.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm sure that's right.
Block high, block low. That's the only thing I really understand from karate class back when I was 8. Xenocider, for those of you who may not know him that well, has been around for quite some time. He's been trying to play in some qualifiers, where he most notably took out Xenio. He's even beaten players like Huck and Katz in the past. So this guy, this kid, has been around, but he plays like a man as far as I'm concerned.
I would tend to agree. You know, you can't really argue that age is a factor when you've got people like Life just rocking it up right now, and it seems to be the same with some of these really aggressive Terrans that we're seeing coming out. We're seeing a lot of kind of younger players involved in this particular tournament, and though we've seen, I think, at least 2 or 3, like 15 or 16-year-olds, actually. Neeb was definitely a 16-year-old, and Xenocide, I think, is the youngest at, was it 15 or 16? I can't remember. I think, yeah, he was 15, wasn't he? So that was, I mean, that's crazy
right.
when you think about it.
That's right. Xenocider never had the opportunity to play with Hot Wheels.
No.
He's too young.
No, he didn't. He probably doesn't even remember Mighty Max.
Oh, God. Yeah, he that's most certainly did not. I think AOL 6.0 or something was out by the time he was able to understand what was going on the internet.
Got mail.
Oh. You've got hellbats. RSVP is going for a quick Nexus with no units originally. He went Gateway Cybernetics Core, but scouted Command Center first and dropped the Nexus. Yeah. And that's kind of like what we were alluding to earlier. If you see your opponent playing greedy, why not just play greedy yourself?
Yeah, why not? It would be, of course, super unfortunate if Xenocide was able to miraculously micro these 7 Marines and actually kill both the Stalkers of RSVP and get into the natural. That would be a bit ugly, but with the Mothership Core on the way, that seems fairly unlikely to happen. And, of course, he knows exactly what's coming at him. Grabs his Zelnaga Watchtower in the center there, and everything's looking pretty slick for him so far.
You can go for an early Marine poke. Some players have favored doing that. Innovation comes to mind, where you just try to see if you can force an early Photon Overcharge, or if Protoss is playing too greedy, pick off a Sentry, even the Mothership Core, just because Marines can chase it down. Yeah. So, but at the same time, you don't have to.
No, you definitely don't. We're seeing Xenocide go for the Engineering Bay as well, so things are looking pretty good for him, and it's a nice timing to have it. If there's some funny business going on, which he doesn't know about, then he'll be pretty well prepared to deal with that, but it also means he can start his upgrades at a pretty decent time. He's got the Stimpack down. There comes the factory once again, seeing some of these players just favoring that later factory timing now, but that's a fairly fast Robo Bay coming out here from RSVP.
Yeah, it's the quickest Robo Bay possible. Now, I want to see how RSVP chooses to follow this up, because if he adds mass amount of gateways, he could just 3 Colossus push. And on a map like Whirlwind, it's not too bad, because there's not too many spots where Vikings can can be able to pick off the Colossus really safely. Even though you could try to go in from a weird angle, you're not going to be able to reinforce it if the Stalkers get into a nice covering position. And the ramp is still pretty wide. That said, it is pretty far cross ground position, so I don't know what RSVP is up to. I don't think he's going to try to go for a fast 3 base, though, anytime soon.
The stealthiest Marine ever is actually hiding in the trees over to the east of the map, to the point where I can't even angle to see it. It's like, that was nicely placed there by Xenocider, but It's so odd, isn't it? And then we're seeing a Twilight Council going on behind this as well, but without a
He
forge.
could be faking the Colossus tech
What,
and
going straight to Templar again?
Yeah, he could be doing that.
It's a possibility. Yeah, that might work. I mean, if Xenocide goes for a super marine heavy approach and doesn't actually get the meat in there, then that could be really ugly. But I've always said, and I think this has become less true now, I feel, but in the past I've always said that going for earlier Templar doesn't make a huge amount of sense because Templar are always at their most effective when there are larger armies in play.
It depends too, though, because some players are using it strictly for feedbacks.
Yes.
Parting, for example, has just used Templars for feedbacks and going for a charge lot Archon 2/2 attack if he needs to do that. And if you see his games in Pro League, it really exemplified that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So we'll see if we spot early Storm coming in from RSVP or not, or if he even decides to go for it. Yeah, there it is. So with the charge coming in, you may very well be right. This could be that 2-base, 2/2 Zealot Archon timing attack. There is no follow-up Colossus here. So I'm thinking RSVP is hoping that this Colossus gets scouted. The rollout is coming in. The Colossus is still pretty good. I mean, you can use it against the push that generally comes around this time. Obviously, the push is a bit later because of the later factory, but this push could do damage. It's not a very big army from RSVP, if we're totally honest. It's like a Colossus, couple of Zealots, some Stalkers. No, it's not much.
It's not much at all, but most importantly, TB, is that during this entire time, RSVP has been on one gate production, one gate, one robo production, because he dropped that third Nexus. Like I was saying, I don't think he should have done that.
Yeah,
I don't know if he can handle this.
No, I mean, he didn't put it at the front, obviously, but this may have been a bit too greedy here by RSVP. We've got the factory complete, we've got everything rolling out, and we've also got the armory coming in, so we could see Hellbats mixed in, but it could also just be for upgrades. But with the timing, you'd think there's probably going to be maybe a Hellbat or two thrown into this mix, and Xenocide has kind of a scary army now. Charge is about to finish, but the Zealot count's only at 6. I don't know about this.
I mean, again, it really depends, because Xenocide